Really?
Oh, geez.
Well,
please.
send us a video. Try to send it to us. Please, right over here, my friend.
Please don't, man. Please don't. I'm trying to make a living, man.
Oh, come and sit down, buddy.
They never cracked the window.
You're looking fantastic, kid. You smell good, too.
What's up, gentlemen?
You make
How you doing, Al?
you give some perfume
Thanks for
to
coming
this
in.
smoky room here.
Al, I tell them to crack that window. They don't listen.
Well,
Nobody listens to you, Anthony.
ladies and gentlemen, Al Tillman.
Thank you for coming in. Thank
Hi,
you.
Al. Gamer Girl is saying hello, Al.
Hey, how you doing?
How you doing? And as we said, that he's current or former Macon chapter of NAACP.
I'm what folks would consider a community advocate or activist. I'm the chairman of Unity and Community, which is a nonprofit organization that build relationships and building blocks and helping and ensuring the next generation has what he or she needs to move forward in this community. I'm the former president of the Macon NAACP as well.
Okay.
And by profession, I'm a talent and booking agent, entertainment agent.
Exactly.
And,
That's what I...
And I'm the first one to bring Bruce to Macon, Georgia, our hometown.
Yeah.
And I still may have a video of you
Oh,
doing
God.
comedy.
He's got it archived,
Doing
baby.
comedy, and I don't know.
Could you please send us that? I want to play.
1995
Please
at Peacock Lounge.
Yeah,
on
Peacock
stage.
Lounge. Yeah.
I have a good memory though.
Yeah, very good.
Now that you say that, now that you say that.
That's amazing.
Oh,
But
How
anyway,
you guys doing?
Doing well. Doing
so
well.
how you been, pal?
Hey man, hanging in there, man. Y'all can't be inviting me to places, and I'm hitting bronchitis and somebody was in. Somebody came in and lit a cigarette or something.
When? Just now? My smoke is off, although this room is pretty smoky. But I didn't realize you were so allergic to cigarettes, so I will not be smoking for as long as you're here.
You should have aired it out overnight.
Yeah.
I didn't know it was either. I don't smoke, Al, but I got to put up with it. Derek also doesn't smoke.
Yeah.
Hey, are you going to get on here or what?
Y'all talk a while.
Yeah, the bean says bring some Febreze because
I'll talk a
that
while.
cigarette smoke is.
And I'll let Al talk to you. I'll be off to the side
Yeah,
here.
Anthony, you know.
We talked last night.
If Anthony's not here, that means I'm not on the hot seat.
That's true.
You're right.
That's
Very
true.
good.
Now, Al and I talked on the phone last night.
So I'm sure folks want to hear Anthony put me on the hot seat.
Oh, yeah, well. Actually, yes. Anthony's on a roll. Of course, you know a little bit about what's going on
Today.
right?
Yeah.
Okay. Give us your thoughts on that,
It's
because
January 31st.
I want to make sure that we've already talked to Anthony's already talked to our district attorney Cook, told him what we were doing. It's happening in a day that God just somehow, as always, orchestrates. This mayor was supposed to be doing his state of the city.
Later today at 1:30.
Well, he was supposed to do it yesterday.
Yeah, due to
and then
tornadoes.
because of due to weather, it's now today, which happens to be the day that we chose 2 weeks ago to go and to start another rally regarding not getting the right answers from the mayor and the police chief. I read the stories online through the Macon.com, Macon Telegraph, where the city council came together and they questioned Mr. Moffett and Ms. Gaudet. Gaudet, is it?
Gaudet. Yeah.
Gaudet. And they were given somewhat elusive answers. And so really what this rally is all about is, why aren't we getting straight answers on anything around here? Why is the city so out of control where they have police officers that are thieves, they have police officers who go and have brawls at Waffle Houses. We have now this police abusive police officer being allowed to be on the force after 26 infractions, and we don't have Chief Burns or the mayor speaking before the council. You know,
It's been going on. It's been 6 weeks since his murder, and 5 since Sammy Davis Jr.'s murder, and 5 weeks since his funeral.
And it's just concerning.
41 days since the shooting.
Yeah.
Tomorrow is 42
And
days.
the other thing, Al, is that we're not even talking about how this affects us economically as a city. I mean, look at this. People are working very hard to try to kind of bring about, you're one of the guys, of course, trying to bring some kind of sense of unity in this community. Working hard. You've got now an Elton John concert coming in. You have so much the media is going to be focused on our city.
And not to mention Jerry Seinfeld, he's going to be coming Friday tomorrow night.
So the city has a lot of exposure, and this is like the front page news about corrupted police officers. And by the way, even with the school with Dallaman and all that garbage, where we can't even get our school system.
Hold on. Is there a question in there for me?
Yeah, there is.
Thank you. I try to tell Irvin to wind up, and Al, Irvin's rants and raves on here becomes what he's going to say to the protesting.
Okay.
I'm listening.
Here's your question now.
I'm not being disrespectful, but I don't want to sit here and listen to rhetoric.
Well, it's more than rhetoric, Al.
I'm on the show. If you got a question for me, because I'm sure you've been repeating this stuff already. Okay. And so, I mean, that's just serious. I mean, everybody's time is valuable.
What do you feel about the climate here?
Ask me a question if you want me to share something. Because, I mean, you've gone from, first of all, we're in Macon, Georgia.
Yeah.
And so, you've gone from, where you're going to be to Elton John and, so.
I guess the question would be, what are your views about this? Do you think this crime happenings going on will probably deter more bigger acts to come here and Macon, like a Jerry Seinfeld or Elton John?
No.
Or investment.
Macon's on the road. Macon's on the road. Macon's booming. I mean, ever since the new hotel has been built, which we would call the convention center. The new investors, Macon's on the roll. It has nothing to do with what's happening. I mean, it just has something to do with the business at hand, the people that's making it happen. We're becoming a viable city for entertainment, and I think we've got some of the right people in place.
Okay. Well, having said that, I do want to ask, what could we do to improve it?
I think we just need a marketing plan where we encourage more people to come out to participate in what's happening in our city. Because a lot of times, tourists see more of a value to our city than sometimes we see. You can go to the city of Atlanta and the people, you can see all these different things that's listed. You can go to the city's website or the Convention Visitors Bureau's website, and there'll be a plethora of things that's listed that, because we live here, we take for granted. And so Macon is very viable, and I think it's moving forward with a lot of things that's happening. And
a lot of things are happening. And to me, all I keep hearing, Al, honestly, is, these kinds of stories breaking out, and it seems like nobody seems to want to step up and discuss the matter, really, honestly, openly, about how this does affect the economy of our city. How this has these kinds of stories. People go and move into cities for education and this public safety. And this city seems to not be able to get that act together. And there are guys like me that will notice that. I appreciate, everything you're talking about and the positive that's out here, but it's being stymied and it's being hamstrung when the only stories coming out of Macon, Georgia right now are really more about this police debacle than it is about anything else that's going on here that's good.
That is a high profile situation that's happening in our city. There are many. That is the one that's at the forefront that some of you all are bringing to people's attention as well. It's a serious issue, and it's a serious case, and we should be sensitive to the families on all sides. There's a problem. I mean, when you don't talk to people, don't give them straightforward answers. It's a community and a perception that people are just not concerned and that the police department does not care. I know that if I call them, I want them to show up and take care of me and my family. But there's a perception that is going on that just doesn't seem right and look right. And so what I would be doing if I was, whether the mayor, the city council, the police chief, I'd be on radio, TV every day shouting out to somebody saying, the city is safe, we've got your best interests at heart, this is what we're doing, and this is how we're going to rectify this issue. But, we cannot be silent on these type of issues. And I understand there's an investigation going on, but I asked a question on my Facebook page yesterday, what if there was no district attorney? What if there was no GBI? What if there was no internal affairs? Then that means the people at the top in leadership position and management position would then have to assess the situation and make a decision based on witness accounts. Every day law enforcement scream and holler and says we need the public's help on a shooting, a robbery, a killing, a murder, and we entrust the public. So all of a sudden in this shooting and killing, when the public says here's an innocent man, when the public says he had his hands up, when the public says he's done nothing wrong, but all of a sudden now there's a stall tactic, and we've got to investigate. And so of course it's coming to an end, but I just asked the question that there's an internal investigation, and I challenged my friend who's the mayor, and I said this: should the police chief and Sutton, be sitting in your office, and you should already know the answer.
It's practically a rhetorical question right there.
Sutton should be fired. Let me interject. Sutton should be fired regardless of what the GBI is doing, because the GBI is handling the shooting. Sutton's record shows he shouldn't have been working this far along already. That's what riles me up, is that regardless of what they came out with, the GBI is going to come out with, the mayor should have already said, look, we're releasing you, Officer Sutton, we're taking your badge, your gun, you're fired, you're no longer going to be paid on administrative leave, and then you sit at home right now, and then when the GBI comes back, we'll decide then whether you also are going to get prosecuted for something else. That's the way it should be handled, in my opinion. On both sides, everybody is presumed innocent until proven guilty, but in that situation, it could have been handled much differently. I mean, my thing is the public's trust is at stake.
That's very true. That's why I'm saying it may, I'm not saying it won't, but it may deter other, it probably might slow down the progression of making, having economic success. And plus with the stagnation, with the dragging along of the investigation of whether or not they should be Sutton should be fired or not. I mean, earlier in the show, I was talking about on copblock.org, where they had these people where these people were stopped by corrupt cops. Like there was his grandmother. Basically, there was this cop in Texas. It was Doraville, I think it was Doraville, and he punched out a grandmother, and they fired him. And he was working on the force over at his town in Texas. He was there for 3 years. Like half the time, Sutton was working here in Macon in MPD for 6 years. And there's this other woman over in Evansville, Texas, I think. She's suing the police. She's suing the police, the city, and the SWAT team because they accidentally broke into her house, did a home invasion and just poured type of smoke grenades in her house because they thought she was some type of criminal, and she wasn't, and there was nothing there, and they accosted her and her granddaughter, and she sued the pants off that city.
All right, let me ask you something, Anthony out here. Let me ask you something. I got the email back yesterday, back and forth, with the, I believe it was Robin Patrick. She's over at Human Resources. I was directed towards her, and she was telling me what I have to do to get the open records on Officers Watts and Guidry, who are the two that stole the tractor, among other crimes they've done. And basically she's telling me what I have to do. There's a fee for this certain fill-out fee and all that, and that's fine. My thing is this, and this is what I said to the DA on the phone a couple days ago, is, had these guys not been caught stealing this tractor, we have no idea how many crimes they've been committing up to this point until they got caught, They just happened to get caught because of the GPS. And that's why I'm calling for their files, because I want to see if they have any kind of reprimands and complaints on their files, just like Sutton had. And that being said, the more you check into it, I'm curious as to which cops, period, have a file, have complaints, and have reprimands that are up in the dozens. And that's kind of the reason we're behind this also. So my point is this to you or my question I should say is this, not my point. My question to you is that don't you think the officers in charge, Burns, Carswell, I don't know Sutton's direct superior by name, like his lieutenant right above him, or sergeant even for that matter, don't you think those files and records should be checked weekly? Don't you think every police officer's file should be brought to the desk of their superiors, Chief Burns, all the way up to Mayor Rickard, and they should be checked weekly? And if they have all these infractions, they're called into the office, and then they are asked what this has to do with, what happened, and they give them punishment, and then from there they take, if they think it should be fired over, they get rid of them. Now, I know what the answer is going to be. One of them is going to be, well, our police force already is struggling. Nobody wants to be a policeman in Macon. The pay is horrible, blah, blah, blah. Fine. But regardless of that, we have to have a good police force that protects, serves, and abides by the law. And maybe you know something I don't.
Well,
so, do they do that?
I'm not sure if that's happening.
Right.
We don't know if that's not happening. I don't see that someone would be calling in nearly 300 police officers every week. I think there is, and there may be a process, because everybody has a direct supervisor, whether it's a sergeant, lieutenant, captain, major, all the way up to the police chief that supervise. And everything that's in a person's record doesn't always justify firing. But in this particular guy's record, which we're speaking of Officer Sutton, who's accused of the shooting, or who did actually shoot Sammy Davis Jr., there was substantial reprimands and things that, as a matter of fact, it was up to 26, and so there's a new process or something that needs to be put in place where these things are looked into more thoroughly, and then we need to know what is the policy. If you and I ran a business, we may give somebody one chance or two. In Georgia law, where we live, everybody else has 3 strikes and you're out. Georgia has a 2-strike law, and you have to go to prison if you're a felon for the rest of your life. So we don't know what the process is. So number one, I think we ought to be trying to see what is the process, what is the policy on those number of offenses before a person is fired or written up. It's a problem, and the police department, like many across the country, I'm sure are dealing with it. My thing is mostly the perception that the public has in the trust. In particular, in the African American community, for years, we have a trust issue, where generations of fathers, from your grandfather to your father to your, to the son, have all seen some type of abuse from law enforcement, have been treated a certain way, and people don't want to help out with crime.
Malcolm X's father was
that's dangerous right there. And you guys are talking about the economy, the effects of the economy. Stats and statistics in the Macon Police Department show that crime is down. And so you've got the numbers to show that, hey, 80 to 90% of murders and aggravated assaults are solved. And so Macon's doing a great job with that. Crime Stopper doing a great job. It's, the thing is the perception issue. Nobody's working on public relations. We as partners of the Macon Police Department, partners in the mayor's office, partners with city council, we should be out here instead of bashing each other, name calling each other, trying to get this city in a situation where we're being marketed correctly. And that, in this situation, it's bad press that's happening. And it appears that there's a cover-up, so to say. And that's the perception that people feel.
And see, I think that has to come out. I'm sort of the mentality of the guy, I don't know his name, of the warden in the prison, I think it's in Texas, where he makes his inmates wear pink. You've heard of this guy, right?
Yeah, from Louisiana.
Is it Louisiana?
Arizona?
Okay,
Sheriff
that's my mentality.
Copeland, in Copeland County, something like that.
My mentality is this, and I don't mean put him in pink, but it's the same sort of comparison. My mentality is this, and this is what I think Irvin's getting at. He just goes a long way around it. It's that basically, it's basically that you can't keep sweeping it away and throwing all this "I love Macon" to the front, and look who's coming to town, and we got beautiful 2nd Street being worked on, and I got a plan for, and you're throwing all this good shit in, but you're sweeping what really matters under the rug.
Exactly.
My point is, be the hard-ass police chief, be the hard-ass mayor that goes, look, and let the city know from the get-go he should have done this. He should have put his officers on the front. He should have lined them up in a big parade formation in front of City Hall. He should have gave them a speaking to in front of the city, not behind closed doors. He should have said and invited the city to watch right there from Rosa Parks Square. He should have said at the get-go, I am not going to tolerate this. I am not going to tolerate incompetence in my police force and criminal activity. The minute I see it, you're out the door. 2 strikes, 3 strikes. That's what he should have done. That's what I mean. He should have been very
Or even put out a YouTube video to the city or something.
But whatever. He should have shown. He should have shown the city from the get-go that he cared, right? And then put it in place. What it comes across to me is that it's part of this, and we hear this term so much, and I'm tired of the term, but it's true. It's the good old boy network, and it's this whole thing where he comes into office because he's the guy, he's a lawyer, his family name around here holds some weight. You know, everybody likes him, whether they're Republican, Democrat. He's Rickard. We got to get him in office. And he's just skimming by, not doing anything, but laughing and joking and trying to get through his term, and then possibly get a 3rd term under consolidation. He should have been a hard ass to these people. He should have said, "I'm not going to tolerate it." The minute they screwed up, they're out the door. They're out the door. And I think if he had done that, we would have never had Sutton driving on December 21st in the Kroger, and Sammy Davis Jr. would be alive right now, most likely. He definitely wouldn't be dead from Officer Sutton's gun. We know that. And that's my problem, and I think that's what we're getting at, is that you can say Macon's great, we can talk it up, but if you're not going to correct the issues, there's no sense in talking it up. There's no sense in talking it up.
It's like a filled up kitty litter box.
Exactly.
Like you can only sweep it on the rug so much till you see a pile.
It builds up.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I think you can do it.
Yes.
I think you can do it all.
Yes.
I think you can market your community and your city because you have to. But I think, I don't disagree with what Anthony just said, about the hard-nosed stuff, because there were some folks that saw that from a previous administration that they want this mayor to get our finances and the office back on track. And I think he's done that. And I told him, I think you've done that, but I think that in going forward, that people may be trying to use you, that you've put off your family business and practice. And I'm not sure if I think I agree with what Anthony just said. We cannot continue to sweep anything under the rug, and the community, for me, is first. And I've waited along with other folks in trying to make sure and ensure that things were handled properly. And like most folks, our confidence is dwindling.
Let's go to chatters. Because the chatters.
One of the chatters says.
Don't talk to Al with the chatters.
Oh yeah, Donnie Curry said the one we were talking about, the one who has the inmates in pink, is Arizona Sheriff Arpile.
Okay.
Sheriff Arpile from Arizona.
And of course, that's the inmates. But my point of bringing that up was just having the hard-nosed approach. I'm not saying that the prisoners are the same as the cops in this case necessarily. But my point, what I'm saying is that have the hard-nosed approach and let your officers know, not going to tolerate corruption.
Well, that's not a prison.
You know, it's
First,
not, yeah.
first of all, that in Arizona, you know, it's not a prison. It's actually a county jail.
Is it a jail? Okay.
Yeah, it's actually a county jail, and what it is, it's an overflow because there are actually inmates inside the jail, but there are some that sleep outside in tents and wear pink and so forth.
Bean 52, the Bean 1952 says, and he's referring to Rickard, he says, he's not the man he perceives to be. Have known him since high school, college days. Trust me, Robert Rickard's a farce. Unless he's really changed from 40 years ago, he's a phony. And again, this is the opinion of our chat.
Well, this is the Bean.
That's what I'm saying. You take it for what it is. This is the chat. This is the internet. But,
let me say this to be fair to Rickard, that if that person knows Robert Rickard, and I'm not defending Rickard, but this is what I know. Robert Rickard served in wartime, which was a pilot in times of war.
Vietnam.
He shot and killed folks. People don't like to talk about that. You never hear him talk about that.
Right.
But here's a veteran of wartime that's flown in military missions, that was almost killed himself, and that's had to shoot and kill some folks as well. And so I'm a military veteran, and so every person has a value that he or she can offer. What they do with it is differently because you disagree with somebody, and that's fine.
Right.
And so we need to be careful when we say, you know, I went to school with somebody in 40 years, they've never done that. You know, you're talking about a military veteran. The same thing with Officer Sutton. You know, Officer Sutton's situation is, here's a guy that was a part of a military war as well, that could be suffering from post-traumatic syndrome.
Right.
Here's a guy, and before he took down his Facebook profile.
You're talking about Officer Sutton.
Right.
Yeah.
You know,
we talked about it on here. We thought maybe he had post-traumatic stress disorder from being in Afghanistan.
and maybe
we don't know that.
Maybe you know.
But again, that's the fault of the police department for not doing psychological exams on their own.
And plus,
That's a point I was making.
Since he served, I mean, I know he served, but the thing is, how many 300-pound insurgents that you see at Kroger? You know.
Well, my thing is, people have not been as insensitive to our community as they should. You know, we as African American men, you know, if we're businessmen, you know, we put on a hoodie somewhere, we're going to be treated differently. Yeah. Anyway, and so the thing is, in the middle of the day, at a program, in the middle of the day, a man gets shot and killed, who everybody knows, who's been there, who they say had a warrant for his arrest that has not been answered or explained.
Which we later found out was a false.
And those are the things that have lingered on, that the administration or the police department, those are things that the GBI didn't have to answer for us.
Yeah.
You know?
The thing is, but to me, I have to interject on this. I mean, we know about the hoodie thing with Trayvon Martin. Well, they might have looked like a thug, but I have to say I can't co-sign on that. But just because you wear a hood, or it doesn't mean you're a gangbanger. I mean, the guy was 49. He was pushing 50. I mean, there are not that many 50-year-old gangbangers. And plus, remember, he may have wore a hoodie because it's December. It's cold. I mean, you can't. I mean,
the Bean 52. We need to get his reply to Al, since Al. We don't want to keep him.
I mean, not saying that you know, that I know people have negative processing when it comes to black men, African American men. But the thing is, just to write someone off because they have a hoodie, that's a really weak excuse in my book. I mean, you can't judge a people's a book, especially their clothing. You know, I mean, if they wear a lot of tattoos, that doesn't make them like a biker or, you know, drug dealer of some sort.
Well, we got Bean 52. He goes, I'm not saying he's not done well in his career, but he's led an elite lifestyle. Really doesn't know the common man. Winchester then says, great point, Al. Way to make us take a step back. We are all guilty of creating our own story, true or perceived. The Bean 1952 then says, maybe I overstepped. His hands-on approach is lacking in a city official. Sutton 304. If this is really Sutton, okay, I'm gonna bite. Sutton 304 says, Anthony, I have a question for you.
I was just about to tell you that.
And then he goes, no answer? Okay, ask your question.
Well, the
Sutton
question it
304.
says, his question in Sutton 304 was, have you read Sutton's file and read all 26 complaints, not infractions?
Not everyone. I've seen parts and sections, but let me tell you, that's no excuse. To me,
and it's enough.
There's at least 3 in there which he should have been fired years ago. That's all I got to say, Sutton 304. I mean, that's all I got to say. I mean, granted, some complaints. I understand it's easy to complain against police officers. We know there are people that do complain against an officer that it does not do anything wrong because people have a mentality they don't like.
Anthony, not only is it not good sometimes to complain against police officers, it's dangerous because
they're armed.
There are many officers. There are hundreds of officers in our community. In every job, every business, there's a bad apple or two. Eventually, he or she will be weeded out. This thing is embarrassing to many good police officers in our community. They are part of our community. They live next door to us. They are humans like we are, but yet they're held to a higher standard.
Yeah.
I could be wrong, but I think there are a high percentage of people that become police officers that were possibly bullied in school, who were mistreated badly growing up, and now all of a sudden they grow up and they say, well, I'm going to be a police officer, nobody's going to bother me again. And then there are some that family have taken on this. We need good men and women. Here's a challenge that's a problem in the African American community. We have been mistreated mostly by law enforcement over the years. Yet
cops and robbers both.
Yet African American men, we complain all the time about the injustices of law enforcement, but yet we won't become that to change our community. There are men standing on the corner with made a B in school, a C in school. You can become law enforcement officer, but they say dumb stuff like, I ain't gonna be no police officer because I ain't gonna be no snitch.
Right.
If you want things to change in your neighborhood and your community, then you become part of that community. You become part of law enforcement. You become the district attorney. You become a judge. You become a lawyer. And things can begin to change. We cannot continue to complain about injustices if we're not going to become a part of the justice system. And so if you don't like what's happening in your community, in your neighborhood with law enforcement, you become law enforcement. And you change it and you say, well, I know I'm going to be the good guy. Because a lot of these guys we're finding out, not from Macon, Georgia, not from our hometown. They're from other cities and so forth. And so if we are invested in our community, for all the hundreds of young men that has a high school diploma or GED, if you're age 21, you can go become part of the public safety, whether it's the fire department, sheriff department, correction officer, and so forth. And then and let me go a step further. I'm seeing and talking to women every day that's living in government housing, Section 8 housing, and so forth. A girl just recently came, 30 years of age. All her kids are in school, B student when she was in high school. Why are you living in government assistant housing? Your kids are in school. You don't need a babysitter. You can go and become a police officer, correction officer, and so forth. Because their parents have grown up in some of these areas, they feel they have to do it now.
Right.
And some of these situations that they're in are only supposed to be temporary. You're supposed to, step in them, step up, move out. And that's part of some of these systems. But we continue to complain about any and every situation. We've talked a lot this morning about the police issue in the police department. We've got some great men and women that's law enforcement. Okay, I've got family that's law enforcement. It hurts everybody when cases like this come about. I've heard some of y'all say, well, more people need to speak up and stand up. How many people need to speak up and say? One person standing up or saying something of crime victim is enough.
I agree.
We've
the city as a whole looks at those. Let me just say one thing real quick, Al. Now that you can. But the city as a whole looks at when one person does it, they look at it as a crazy guy. They look at him as somebody who's making crap.
Well, that's one of the
like,
problems.
for example, the gentleman, what was his name? Mr. Arthur, that went on 13. They claimed he was roughed up by Officer Sutton. You remember? We saw him at the funeral for Sammy Davis. Okay, everybody looked at that guy. We met him at Sammy's funeral. I actually gave him a ride in my car after the funeral to go out to the actual plot, the cemetery.
He thought Anthony was a cop.
He actually sat with us, and then we see him on 13 like 2 days later giving his story about Officer Sutton. And what you know how many times we heard from different people how that guy was drunk. That guy's not credible. And that's the point, is when you have one, or like us, we've dealt with it. The 3 or 4 of us doing this, people think that we're not credible. They think we're attacking this officer, we're attacking Chief Burns, we're attacking the mayor, but we're just rabble-rousers. We're just people that don't have credibility in this town. Irvin's crazy. I'm crazy.
And guess what?
And that's why it gets swept under.
And guess
because
what?
the leaders, the so-called leaders, don't step up and show that they do agree with us when someone does something wrong.
And sometimes the crazy folks,
knows what's
the
going
most
on.
outspoken
That's
folks,
right.
sometimes have
That's
to bring
right.
attention to the everyday man and woman.
Right.
Because you got to remember, elected officials, a lot of their information comes from the everyday citizen.
Right.
And sometimes, people are perceived in different ways.
Right.
I talk to folks all the time that are perceived, or this person has an issue because they've had a mental issue. They sometimes get overlooked. I don't want to miss the point about our community and communities across this country of good folks trying to do what's right.
Yeah.
We have a serious perception issue with law enforcement as it relates to the African American community. We have an issue within the African American community where we're killing and shooting each other. But I don't want to take this opportunity to overlook the many cases that's in our community that have not been solved. There was a mother in East Macon that was bullets rang through her house, over 70 bullets from her son getting into a scuffle during Super Bowl 4 years ago. Why did it take 4 years for somebody to show up and say, I know what happened and who's done it?
Right.
We cannot be saying we want justice for Junebug and we don't want justice for that mother who had 50 bullets in her.
Right.
We don't, Sabora Daniels,
Right.
her killer has not been found in drive-by.
Right.
Where's the justice for her?
Right. Oh, I agree.
So
I
as
agree.
we say we want
I agree.
justice for Junebug, the other families want justice as well.
And I agree.
And so
And I
when we
agree.
get on Facebook and social media and call out law enforcement, call out the judges and so forth, those same people have families.
Right.
Those same people are on Facebook, and what you're saying and doing is causing possibly for somebody to be harassed.
But
all of this stuff, and that's not what we're trying to do.
When they ignore you repeatedly, then we go the next step, which is we have to go on the offensive.
I'm
and
not
we
sure
have
you're
to
being
stick
ignored.
out.
I don't think you're
And-
being ignored. I
Well,
don't
but
think
I'm not
you're
getting a
getting
call
the-
back from the mayor.
Well,
okay?
listen.
I'm a citizen. He works for me. When I call him to meet with him, he's supposed to return my call, not be told by his secretary he's going on vacation. And then what do? I see him hanging around Macon. He's not on vacation. He's obviously here to have a meeting today,
Well,
right?
I'm not
to
gonna-
do.
I'm
Where's
not-
my time? He could have called me yesterday.
I'm
He
not
could've called me last
going to
week.
defend the mayor, but Anthony, you are a reasonable man,
Right.
And let me say this: some folks have said to me, "Man, I called you and you wouldn't call me back." And I said, can you imagine if 20 people, just 20, are all calling me on that day within the hour and says, "You ain't called me back."
You write him in a schedule.
You still
write
have
them
to
in.
do your business.
You write
and
it in.
eventually
Al, you
need to get a call.
go, Secretary so-and-so, whatever your secretary's name is, write them down for next Monday at 3 p.m. And then you put it on your calendar, and you're there at your office for 15,
And in your
20
defense,
minutes,
by
and
the
then
way,
you have that conversation. His secretary actually said she was going to pencil me in. And then she tells me, when I tell him further what I'm doing and who I'm with, then all of a sudden it becomes, he's going to be on vacation. He's going to be out of town, which he ended up going to the mayor's thing in Washington, D.C. It was right before that. And then he goes, and then when he comes back from that, he's on vacation. 2 days after that, I'm marching with the MLK March from right here down to downtown. And who shows up at City Hall to address us? The mayor. The mayor looking red in the face, pissed off at me, looking down at me holding a Justice for Junebug sign. He knows I know that his ass is supposed to talk to me, and he's putting me off. So then what happens after that? I'm waiting for him. He's on vacation, right? No, he's not. He's on the damn news last night, and he's going to have a meeting today, an hour after our rally. This guy has had time to pencil us in and talk to us. When he doesn't want to, that shows me that A, he doesn't want to answer the hard questions that we're going to give him, or B, he wants to sweep crap under the rug.
I don't disagree. I don't disagree with you. But let me tell you what I remember when I first came in office, when I became NAC president in 2007. Some groups and people see you as radical.
I agree. I've been that way for a while.
And they don't want to deal with radical folks. And so what I had to discover was, okay, how can I be effective? Because people still need help. What you're doing is a good thing. You're trying to help somebody, right, and you're trying to get information to feed the public, to help them. So what I discovered was, instead of me personally being radical and saying I'm the president of NACP, I demand this, I demand that, I need to see it, I knew that they would say, well, he's not available. Call him back, or he's going to be on vacation. So I changed my approach. I began to partner with law enforcement, the mayor's office, city council, community groups. I began to partner with them and do community events and activities. And some folks were like, Al Tillman, why you partnering? You the NAACP? Why you partnering with the police department? Dude, I said, somebody's got to get on the inside and find out what's going on and how do we help our people. And so my motto became, if I'm on the inside, I've got a partnership and a relationship with law enforcement. When I begin to criticize them, when I call them out, they're going to eventually say, man, that's just Al Tillman, president of NAACP. He crazy.
Right.
Or they're going to say, no, he not crazy because he been with us. He been partnering with us. And so forth.
But they still, throw the race card at you.
What happens
they might not
is,
say you're crazy, but they say people like you and Jack Ellis and Elaine are being racist.
What happens, Anthony, is they take a second look, because I challenged the police on an issue, and they called me and said, Al, man, what's the problem? I thought we were in a partnership and this was happening. I said, well, sir, who's better to call y'all out on this than me? And it was about the 2009 police inquiry, where I said that law enforcement had an issue because they were issuing citations at a high number to African Americans on Mount Pelion Avenue. And so 2 days later, the high-ranking police officer called me back and said, you know, Al, we thought about that thing, and we think you're right, and we're going to look at this thing more. It became a situation where, okay, this is not that radical NACP president guy. It came back to, well, this is our partner. This is the guy we've been building a relationship with. Because we were able to show that 80% of the traffic tickets written in Macon, Georgia, are written to African Americans. I was able to show, under my leadership, that 80% of the warnings were written to white people. Wow. And they said, well, how do you do that? I said, we walk into municipal court. And 80 to 90% of the people were African American and Latinos. So we said, well, either all the African American and Latinos are being written tickets, or all the white people are paying their tickets in advance or getting warnings. Guess what? The police department, even today in 2013, cannot determine the number of African Americans, whites, and Latinos that they give citations to. Guess why? There's nothing on the ticket that indicates it.
Right. Right. You can assume, but you can't.
You can assume.
Right.
But how you get the data?
Right.
You walk into the courtroom.
Right.
And that's what we did.
Okay, Sutton 304. I'm gonna answer you. I'm not dodging your questions. I'm gonna rail off like 5 or 6 or 10 whatever infractions that Officer Sutton has on his record. I'm not ignoring your question, but I want to go back to Al first, because he says to you, Sutton 304 says, Al, have you ever met Officer Sutton?
No, I have not. I've not met Al.
Have you ever met the other two that arrested for stealing the tractor? Watts and Guidry.
I've had an encounter with one of them, but no.
Right. Okay. So there's
That's the same with me.
And I'm sorry, guys. I'll let you talk again. I'm just trying
No,
to
it's
follow
okay.
the chat.
Keep going.
Sutton 304. Okay, this is what we know. You asked me a while back things that he's done. At least 3 reckless driving complaints and a reprimand in one of those cases. There were cases where Sutton wrecked his car into someone else. There's actually a lawsuit against the city back in 2010 that involved Sutton crashing into the side of a gentleman for driving too fast. Okay, again, that alone. If I had a job, especially a job that involves driving, if I had a job and I wrecked or had that much reckless driving on my record, I'd be fired for that alone. I mean, imagine if I'm a pizza delivery guy, Al. Imagine I'm a police, and a cop. A lot of what a cop does involves a car, so we have to count the car as a big part of an officer's job. Okay, listen to this. If I'm a pizza delivery guy and I'm wrecking into people and I'm driving carelessly fast, that company's going to fire me. I'm not going to be a
Not to mention, you may get your license taken away too.
Exactly. So, okay, let's talk about those Sutton 304. Next one, okay? The case, again, a driving thing. The case where he backed into a lady, elderly lady holding a baby or a young child in her arm.
That's Sutton.
That was Sutton, okay? And you can correct me, Sutton 304, if you really are Sutton. Let me say a few more. A case where he pulls a lady out of a car unjustly, roughly, pulls a lady out of a car. Another one, the case of our gentleman I talked about on 13 that everybody said was drunk, that we met at the funeral. He was roughed up, he said, repeatedly by Sutton. There's a case of where he apparently tried to go collect on a bad check. A woman wrote a bad check. You tell me when the cops collect on a bad check.
I don't think we'll disagree that Sutton had a bad record.
Well, I'm answering Sutton. I'm asking the guy here.
I got you.
Yeah, he asked.
But let me share another story of something that happened with a law enforcement officer in a situation is no longer with the police department.
Right.
A guy came to me and complained that he felt that certain officers at a certain store was pulling customers over and would go through their wallets and or purses and was stealing their money.
And Sutton was accused of that too.
I thought
that's a Sutton accusation too.
This guy who was complaining to me was kind of off. And I'm like, and he just went on and on about it, and I knew of his brother. And and I talked to somebody else that said, well, he's kind of off. He's a different fellow. And I even talked to a high-ranking official in law enforcement about it. Al, that's impossible. Can't happen, and so forth. I said, well, he said who the officer were and so forth. And I kind of, brushed the guy off. And he's complaining to me that we need to take a look at these officers, and this is what's happening. And it was at the store at Walnut. In Broadway down there, and he said, I think he pulls them over right there, and he doesn't arrest them, but he goes through your wallet and so forth, and you're so scared. He took my money, and I know he took my money. I'm thinking this guy's a problem. Right. A month later, same police officer, who we had written down, high-ranking officer called me back in law enforcement and said, Al, that guy was right. We got him doing it to somebody else. Over near the Macon Mall. That was the worst feeling I ever had, because I said, I should have known better. Because here is a person complaining, and we didn't take serious because of what you're saying. They appear to be crazy. They appear to be incompetent. But it was happening. And what I'm saying, and
they prey on
why
that. They
so
prey
many
on people
crimes
that appear to
probably
be
go unanswered, because people that come to us and complain that appear to look and perceive one way, we judge them. And they can have the facts, and they can have information. I don't care how crazy they look, it needs to be investigated. Because this is just my theory. All the kids across this country that's missing, I think they're in some Georgia back roads, off these houses that sit way off the road.
In some basement somewhere.
In some basement somewhere. That the FBI, somebody needs to be going and knocking on these doors. And And I know this is going to invade privacy, but people don't like that.
Ed, pull that up and put that on the page, please.
I think you're paying too much attention to something too.
No, but he says they're all complaints and none have been proven true. I want you to post while we're talking. They can read it. Post the things you posted of all the ones where it said he was actually reprimanded by his superiors.
He says you need to request the entire file so you can read the entire complaint.
He had it underneath his picture,
and not a small portion.
He had like 5 or 6 of them listed, and it said which ones were actually. Anyway, there are. He's right. 7304. We're not going to answer you all day, but just. Believe me, they're out there. We have proof that he's actually been reprimanded about 8 to 10 times on some of those. Some, you're right, were just complaints. But come on, guy, 8 to 10 times is way more than enough to be fired.
Not only that, Mr. Sutton,
that's what's ridiculous.
they said they have all been proven false. That is not a true statement at all.
That's not true at all. That's not true at all. That's not true at all. Anyway, thanks anyway, Sutton. You can stick on. We'll see what else you have to say, and we'll come back to you, but we can't answer you all day. DS Photo Guy, Derek answered you. The woman holding the baby was not driving in a car. She was walking, and he apparently almost ran her over. She was holding the baby.
She was at the rally that we were in last night.
So anyway, Al, let me ask you this, and reply to this. You're completely right, Al, about the whole, why aren't people standing up to the lady shot 40 times, or the other cases? Where's the justice for such a thing? For me personally, when some of that stuff happened, I didn't live here. I didn't know about it. I lived in Decatur. The reason, I'm going to tell you why I jumped on the June bug thing was it hit close to home. It smelled fishy from the beginning. What made me and this show want to go find out that there really was no warrant when the media was telling us there was that I had an idea of who Sammy was already. And that's what Officer Sutton didn't count on. As I told you on the phone last night, I grew up in that area. I went to Central High School. I'm not from Macon, but I lived there since '83, Cherokee Heights area. I grew up there. And that's where the problem arose to me, is I knew that Kroger. I didn't know Sammy personally, but I walked past him many a days while he was sitting out there with Arthur Hooks and the other gentlemen he was with. And, sorry, and I hit the camera. But I occasionally would say hi to him and wave to him and say good morning or whatever. I knew who he was, and that's why it hit home. It's not only because I knew this was fishy because the guy's not doing anything. I've seen him for years sitting out there not doing anything. So the minute I heard in the media a warrant was being served, I thought, wait a minute, what kind of warrant did this guy have? Because Kroger management let him hang out there for so many years. And that's what made me go, wait a minute, guys, let's go find out if there was a warrant at all. And that's what made us go downtown to the courthouse and ask.
And also the way it was written in the papers, it was they were saying so-called warrant. They couldn't even determine what kind of warrant.
Serving a warrant.
They said serving some so-called warrant.
And so because it hit close to home, that's what got me so fired up about it. I told Cheryl Davis, his sister, this, because she's really appreciative of what we're doing. She sends me personal emails, and we appreciate her. And I told her, I said, it's a right or wrong thing with me. And that's why it's necessary, because I'm not trying to make it anything about race. I really feel if we weren't involved with this, the few white people involved in it, like we are, they would be strictly thrown in the media as black, because you would only see Henry Ficklin speaking out against it, maybe you speaking out against it, but it would all show just a bunch of black people speaking against a white cop. My thing, it's not that. It's right or wrong. And when we throw the white person in the mix, or the white people in the mix, then of course they want to kind of sweep that under the rug too, because they want to
appreciate anybody, and I appreciate you guys and anybody standing up for what's wrong in our community. We may differ on how we do it, but I think at the end of the day, we're all striving to get to the same location, the same place,
yes, sir,
which is justice. And so, regardless of how we travel the road, as long as we can get there to justice.
Gamer Girl gives you a shout out, Al. We're going to read this to you. Official Gamer Girl says, I think Al's right. I'm paraphrasing. Al's right. You guys should listen to Al about building relationships and doing that route that he said. So.
Well, Al's been doing that for years, and so that's why his voice is important. on this whole matter. I'm so glad you're here, Al, because one of the concerns that I was talking about this morning early on is not to show up to City Hall and look like just a bunch of rebel rousers. That's not.
But there's nothing wrong with that.
Well,
Because if you look at history, I've told Al this too personally. I said, if you look at history, people did get things done by being that way. This country was formed by having rebel rousers.
Important. Everybody's important.
Yeah.
I think you need it all. Martin Luther King had his rebel rousers as well.
Right.
He preached nonviolence and so forth. But you've got to have people that on all levels that's going to be able to get stuff done. And at the end of the day, then we all just come together. Right. There are many of us behind the scenes that's working and trying to resolve this issue and other issues. We're not in the forefront. That's going to happen a lot. Then those that sometimes in the forefront that's speaking the loudest, sometimes we think they're getting it done. And what you're saying is because sometimes you're raising hell and you're speaking loud, nobody wants to talk to you. But yet, maybe Al Tillman's in the back room already, trying to work out the deal and the details. Right. And it appears that, we're quiet, we're not saying nothing and so forth. It's just, I've learned from, I want to get inside. I want to get in the door. I want to be able to help people. But I think I just have a different approach. And sometimes you can't always be somebody's friend and be friendly. You've got to raise some noise and hell. That's why what I've learned is I know, me personally, when to protest and so forth. And I said this to you guys. It's nothing wrong with what you're doing. It's what you believe in. But for me, when I protest or from an organization that I'm accustomed to how we protest it, when all else fails, during the civil rights movement, things were won in the courts because the protests and that's because when all else fails, people don't want to talk to you. No conversations. Communications break down.
Yeah.
Then we mobilize and we protest and we boycott your business and so forth, and you get it done. And then you get it done through the courts. And so right now, I'm still communicating with folks. I've got access to the mayor's office. I got access to the police department. I got access to organizations and groups and the media that's still talking. Believe me, when all communication breaks off, I will tell you, for me, then now it's time to protest and rally.
Yeah. Definitely. I just wanted to add that what you were saying when you were talking about getting things done, before it get to a protest. Because I remember back when I was in college 20 years ago, there was a guy who was wrongly stopped by a store manager because they thought he was Robinson at his Winn-Dixie, and people were protesting. I thought it was a bad thing. Not saying that protesting was a bad thing, but the thing was it was a grocery store, and you basically give them bad publicity, and publicity, is basically they didn't have to pay for it. It was free. And in a protest boycott, you want them to lose money, not gain money, and somehow they basically ended it and they squashed, and then the same thing happened.
You know what?
But across the street, but the thing was, I didn't think it was necessary for them to boycott or protest. Well, they should have boycotted that particular supermarket simply because there was another one across the street, and you have a whole lot of people saying, "Well, my mama and daddy went to this another one." You're not going to burn for eternity going to a different store because if you cross
somebody
the street,
say, "Well, they should protest Kroger." Kroger hadn't done anything.
No. And actually, they were fine with Sammy being there.
Right.
I talked to some of the people there,
which was something I wanted to ask you. Do you think he might have been scoping?
He helped them out.
Do you think that might have been scoping or searching for someone who might been at the wrong place or thought he wasn't not?
It goes back to Al's thing he said. And let me say this. This will help you answer it. It goes back to what he said. I want to bring it up. It's this. The officer was not from here, and that's the problem. We need officers that are familiar with the city. They're not ones that live in Juliet like Guidry and Warner Robins like Sutton and Wants like Sutton. All three of these recent rogue cops are all out of towners.
Now let me.
And they don't know the area.
I'm going to say something that people are not going to like. Okay. There is some danger brewing in our society. When we recently elect a second-term African-American president, I think some white folks in leadership positions are furious, and it's trickling down to the poor and disadvantaged folks, and it's dangerous. And I'm not saying what happened is sudden, but I do know there's a white gentleman in Florida that committed suicide, and he wrote a suicide note blaming President Obama.
Yeah.
I do know that people get upset and teased and pissed off. They always talk about Martin Luther King and how they respect and love Martin Luther King. And I challenge white folks on this every single time. Tell me a living African American that you love and respect.
Exactly.
Everybody always talk about Martin Luther King.
Yeah.
It's easy when he's dead.
But you don't show up to his
And they hated him when he was alive.
You don't show up to his birthday. You don't show up to his march. You don't show up to anything that's been done. And so the other thing is some white folks, and I say some, hate the fact when African Americans protest or boycott because that's what they remember that was successful in the civil rights era. And it reminds them and it takes them back to that, and all of a sudden races divide.
Yeah.
Donnie Curry
that's
answers
what
you.
happened.
Donnie Curry, one of our chatters who lives in Nevada, he answers you with, and I don't necessarily agree with Donnie on this. I think he's basically giving you just ammunition out to kind of shoot that out of the water. But he answers you with Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton as the response of living black people that are respected. Because you said there's only
No. I didn't listen. Don't misquote me. I didn't say that were respected. That they respect. I said when white people say to me, I respect and love Dr. Martin Luther King. Right. Okay, and then they'll bash President Obama. Right. I asked them, tell me a living African American that you
and Donnie
respect.
Says Jesse Jackson and
okay.
Al Sharpton.
Well, I hadn't talked to Donnie, but okay, but
well, he's from the show.
Well, Alex Haley, actually, Alex Haley, he's dead. He died in '92.
And some people could say Colin Powell. Some people would say General Colin Powell.
Well,
I mean, he had some respect.
Well, my point is,
right.
The holiday has been celebrated for years.
Right.
Even in our city, Anthony. Right. And you, Anthony, can probably count on two hands the number of white folks that was at the ML King March.
Oh.
You see what I'm saying?
I think only one hand.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
but
I agree.
But yet, everybody celebrates the holiday. Everybody now is teaching about Dr. King. Right. And we know that this was a man that said, when he talked about what he wanted for life in his I Have a Dream speech, although he was an African American, he wasn't talking to African Americans only.
Oh,
he was talking to the entire world.
Well, he basically says in that speech, white children, black children together holding hands.
And so the issue is when your white mayor shows up, when he first got in office, he's reading and paraphrasing, and some people, Rabbi Schlesinger, they all talk, locally, and who's white about Dr. King. I'm just saying, if we're serious, we need to take our white children, our white brothers and sisters, school teachers, businesses, we all need to be participating. We cannot say we want to change this community, we want to work together and be together, and then we don't practice it. Right. And that's the double standard. Right. Okay? When you hate a man who's an African American president, but don't understand his policy, dislike the policy, disagree with what he stands for, but why hate the man as an individual? Right. Who we know had a Christian pastor for over 20 years, but he's been called a Muslim, a child of, everything but a child of God.
Well, they say that because
and I don't want to change y'all subject. I don't want to change y'all subject, but I just brought that up.
All right. I mean, you know why they say that, Al? Because there is proof that he studied. Yeah.
These women are.
But the reason why he studied because he lived in an Islamic nation. I mean,
and I don't want to change y'all subject, but I'm just saying I had to bring it up.
Right. But since you said that, I did talk about this recently in an earlier show, I think this week, about this congressman had a prayer which said that he quoted Psalms 109.8 said that we had to get rid of our leader, and then there's another verse out of
a radio station or Bible 109.
Yeah,
108.
Psalm 109.
Believe it or not, it does sound like a radio station.
Psalm 109 verse 8, and then the next following one says, May his wife be a widow, and made his children be fatherless. And he was basically like it's kind of like treason. And I put it on my Facebook page. Is this prayer that he said, about asking for President Obama's death, is it an act of treason or freedom in religion? And one person asked about it, named Sharon. She talks about it and says, if this Congress had been talking about George W. Bush 8 years ago and said that, the minute that email had gone out, Georgia would have had the CIA right at his door, and he would have never been heard from again. And Bush would never let his people have him.
And we remember we argued about that.
Yeah, he would have had Cheney take him going on a hunting trip with him.
But we debated that because I don't believe that. I believe had that been said during any other president's thing. I said it on here. I think that's a slippery slope when you bring in religion, and that's why they wouldn't do anything to this guy because it's religion. It's religion based.
Have any of y'all ever met a living president?
Met a living one personally? No.
Because it's an awesome thing, and whether
I've seen him from a distance.
I've seen him from a distance. I did see President Clinton downtown.
Because whether they're a Democrat or Republican, and now we can say black or white. It's just an exciting thing that people just want to be in the presence sometimes of a living president. And I had the pleasure to shake President Obama's hand, and I had the pleasure to shake George Bush's hand. The father, the elder Bush, down in Fort Stewart when I was in Fort Stewart. And so it's a great thing. I think we just need to respect everybody and everyone, and it's all in a person's attitude as far as what we believe, and people say that, and so. But before, listen, guys, and I know time is winding down.
We got 15 minutes. We're gonna keep it.
I want people to know that name of my group and organization is Unity in Community, and I try to practice it. Our website is unitytoday.com. Get familiar with what we do. We try to, one of our main things we try to do is bring people together on the unity and community that normally wouldn't come together. Black and white, NAACP, the KKK, Republicans, Democrats, people that disagree, that once you find common ground, will become working sources for their community. And so the website again is unitytoday.com, and we're offering workshops on Wednesdays for our community, whether it's credit repair, expunging criminal records, because I think everyone deserves a second chance, except probably people that do bad things to children.
Right. Donnie Curry says he hates, talk about President Obama, he says, I hate his policies, not him as the person. I do not hate any man. And that's what some people feel. You're right, Al. There are a lot of people that do judge him solely by his color. And we know that. There are racists alive and well. But I think a lot of people have a problem with them because of the policy. I think it's a policy.
They have a problem with the policy, but I think it's really heavy. But I think it's really camouflaged by his color, which I think is kind of a convenient cover for them to camouflage their hatred for their prejudice about him. Because even Rush Limbaugh says, I hope the guy fails. He has never said that to any living president. Right. He's never said that to Reagan or Bush Sr. or Bush Jr. He definitely didn't say that to Bill Clinton, which he hated his guts. He gave him the nickname Sleek Willie. Yeah. He never said, I hope the man fails.
We give him too much credit. Guys, I know y'all want to ask me about certain community leaders, and I'll try to give a fair and honest answer if you run down the names.
We'll do that. We'll do that, and we'll do that. And let's bring this up. Bean 1952, he went back and said something about what if it was a black cop shooting a white person in the Kroger shooting. And my answer to that is I would be doing the same thing. I've said this from the get-go. If it was this case that seems very crooked, and it happened in the same area, the Kroger I've gone to since that place has been open, and if it was a black on a black guy, I would still be loud about this. If it was a white on a black cop shooting a white guy, the color has nothing to do with this. It's right and wrong.
Situation. Right and wrong. If I can do this, when you go to our website at unitytoday.com, on the right side of the bottom page, it's going to say 2009 police inquiry.
Right.
Now, white people were very surprised in 2009 as president of the NAACP. Our investigation, and we put it in the report. When I talked about earlier, those 80% of tickets were written to African Americans,
Right.
guess what we didn't leave out?
What you did leave out?
What we did not leave out.
What's that?
They were written by African American police officers.
Wow.
So we didn't leave that out.
Right.
And so, see, when I say that, people assume that,
There must be a white
80% of African Americans are written tickets. Well, they did something wrong. Well, guess what? In the report, we said, and the majority of the tickets are written by African American police officers.
Right.
You know? So African American police officers are treating their African American people in some situations worse than the white police officers.
Right.
You know, and it mentions that in the inquiry. But the main part of the police inquiry was internal affairs, in our opinion, does not work in our community.
Right.
Because when you've got hundreds of complaints, or I challenge people, tell me somebody you know that ever filed a complaint with law enforcement and won their case. You can't find many. And in Macon, Georgia, we were able to say to the police department, okay, well, give me 3 people. Well, Al, I'm sure it's Sean. Okay, well, I'm talking to the chiefs. Give me 1. Give me 2.
Right.
They're not able to do it because nobody was winning complaints. And so
And
that's
plus,
a
people
problem.
are afraid. People are afraid to get in trouble
No,
if they complain.
what I'm saying is the internal affairs is made up by law enforcement officers only. What we have said was changed internal affairs to a citizens review board.
And that's what Tom Ellington
Adding
brought up too.
citizens.
Yeah. On that.
And then they said, well, citizens can't overlook police issues because this and
Why
that.
not?
And I said, well,
They
sit
work
on
for
juries.
us.
They sit
Yeah.
on juries.
They work for
They
us.
look at police and crime stats. You know, they look at shootings, killings, and so forth. So you can.
Yeah.
And so that's why I'm saying the district attorney at the time, who was Howard Sims, says great report. Chief Barnes at the time says, Al, the report was fair and we like some of the stuff. Nothing's been implemented. City Council has it. Colorado, Missouri, Austin, Texas, and many other cities have gotten rid of internal affairs because the perception of citizens that file complaints are not getting a fair treatment by police officers only that's sitting on that. And so, it takes a strong-minded person to have been mistreated to take the time to go to a law enforcement center, write down the complaints, and so do you know how tough that is, man? To sit there and, you know, we complain all the time. But who takes time to write it down and tell people about it? So these people feel that they've been mistreated. And if the mayor, the police, the city council don't care about the police perception, that's the police perception.
Yeah.
You don't care about us.
That's right.
You don't take care of our complaints.
That's
And
right.
now you're shooting and killing our people and we don't have an answer.
Right.
That's a bad perception, man.
Right.
That's a bad perception to have.
And when you ignore it, and in the case of like all the other examples you gave of where's the justice for the lady shot 40 times,
Exactly.
that is another reason
50 times.
That's another reason we are pressing this and we're not letting up. And I am going on a social site being a loudmouth because I'm going to keep it at the front. I'm not going to let it be forgotten. As long as you keep on, it's going to get out there. People are going to jump on and maybe think, you know, maybe those guys were right. Maybe they're onto something. You know, maybe they are right about something. Being 52, he wants this answered. He agreed with he said he wasn't pointing that question towards me about had the cop been a black cop and it was a white victim. He's saying that do you think the black community would be so against this also if it was that way? If it was a black cop and that shot a white guy that always hung out in front of Kroger?
No.
You think it would have been the same?
No, it would not have been the same.
Oh, you don't?
It would not have been the same. How do you
think the black community would have reacted?
They would be saying, let's wait and hear the facts.
Wow.
Yeah.
Let's wait and hear the facts.
There you go.
And that's
Being
the honest
52,
truth.
he gave you
They'd be saying,
Al gave you his feelings.
They would be the opposite. Let's wait and let's hear the facts. And hey, it's no different with the former judge that y'all talked about, which is Howard Sims.
Yes.
Which I consider is one of the African American Superior Court judges that have done and helped more African Americans in this community than people realize. He was my friend yesterday before he got the allegedly supposed to be in DUI. He was my friend today. Howard Sims had done stuff for this community and African Americans that if he had been an African American judge, the African Americans that was on social media and so forth would not have attacked him the same way.
Well,
you know,
maybe so.
he was at every Stop the Violence rally that was 98% African American in the summer of 2000. He was there putting up tents and so forth. He's always done stuff in the African American community, but in the end, when it came up, they were criticizing him like crazy. And I put a picture up and said, Harold's my friend. Everybody, oh man, it's dangerous to say that. If a person is your friend today, he's your friend yesterday, he's your friend tomorrow. If they're dealing with an issue, you don't necessarily just turn on them. You don't just necessarily turn them and throw them away.
I got you.
Because we knew Howard Sims' issue with alcohol before he was elected judge. You know, I was a part of his campaign.
But Al, the reason why he might have been a good guy and he might have helped a lot of people in the community, but as a judge, I mean, you are held to a high standard.
Absolutely.
Just like you don't dare get away with that. I mean, that's just.
And guess what?
You can't judge people if you're doing what you're telling people not to do.
And guess
right?
what? The
that's hypocrisy.
The police officer should have arrested
exactly.
my friend.
Exactly.
But he or she did not.
And does that reflect a corrupt police force again? Because what did the police officer do wrong? He did not do his job.
Anthony, it's just like what you said earlier. The mayor won't take my call.
Yeah.
Everybody has privileges by being involved in something. You know, the mayor will take my call. I could call him. You know, now that's not a slap against you, but I'm just saying. The police would have taken me to jail.
Oh,
but
me
because,
too.
but because I'm the judge now, I appreciate.
And not only not taking,
I appreciate them not taking me to jail. Because
but they also followed him home. They allowed him to drive his own car 5 more miles.
I didn't mean to change your subject again.
No, it's great. Al, we do have to get out of here and get to the thing. But we have about 6 minutes. We got about 6 minutes.
Just a quick point on this judge issue, really quickly. That is another perception that the city then starts to eat up.
That justice is not fair.
That justice is not served properly. Because when that whole incident with Sims occurred, I was downtown. You should have seen roasted. All the young kids, the college kids, were the ones that were the most furious about it. Because they're
getting pulled over left and right. Every first Friday, they're getting pulled over left and right.
Person that brought up the judge was saying the same thing.
That's right. And
he's getting away with it. We wouldn't have gotten away with it.
That's right. And that's an issue. That's a problem. Okay,
now, also going back to one question, Al, on this Citizens Review Board, because I think that's an excellent point that I think this Internal Affairs Department in our city seems that it's one guy, really. It's one guy behind a counter with secretary taking in the complaints. And how do you think that would work better? Having citizens overseeing.
Well, you have to have law enforcement on it, and I think you even have a fire department person that's on it. The thing is, we at least want to add some citizens on the review board along with law enforcement officers. Now there is another board that they enacted that probably hadn't met but one time in a lifetime. That if you're not satisfied with the outcome of the internal affairs, you can go to this other board. But no, we want this internal affairs board switched into a citizen review board. Add at least a couple of citizens on it, along with law enforcement, along with the fire department. That way, the public perception is, well, I had a fair shake because my peers of regular citizens was at least on the board. Police officers have even told me that they fear the fact that no citizens on the board because they sometimes fear retaliation from their own law enforcement friends that's trying to get back at them for something or whatever. So my thing is, it will help law enforcement. This is not going to hurt them. This is going to help change and enhance their perception of how the community feels. If a little boy, if a grandfather has been slammed on a car and got his head busted open, if his son has been slammed on a head, if his grandson is that's 3 generations that you have to overcome. That's a problem that the police department across the country are not facing. Okay, and they should be facing those issues. That's a perception issue. The grandfather, the father, and the son have all had bad encounters with law enforcement. Now, we also preach in that police inquiry that we need to obey authority.
Right.
If you simply put your hands on the dome, do everything a police says, you're liable to be living, and we can deal with your issue. Now, we want people to obey authority, and those are some of the solutions. We not only outline some of the issues, but we also suggested the solutions. The number one thing is we have to obey authority. We growing up in the household, we don't respect grandmother, we don't respect mother, we don't respect our school teachers. Of course we're not going to respect law enforcement. Those are people of authority that we, as African Americans, white Americans, Latinos, everybody. You know, I heard somebody the other day say something so beautiful. I think it was President Obama. He says, we have to remember our history. You know, everybody from this country, most of us were brought here, except the Native Americans. And look, you don't see many Native Americans around here. And so when we start talking about, go back to where you came from,
we got to bring Donnie up. Donnie's really fiery, and he's passionate, and he's addressing what you said. And we got to get this. Sabuki, our buddy in England, London. Hey, Sabuki. Hey. He tells Donnie, you know, it's better to have all sides of something before you choose your action than react only on some of the facts. Donnie then says, I do want both sides of the story, but again, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about what Al said, that the black community at large would not react the same way the whites have. Basically, he's disagreeing with you, Al, but I mean, that's what the show's all about, is debate. We can debate.
Well, Donnie disagrees with most people.
Well, I mean, that's what the show's about, and we are unfortunately running out of time, because I could go like hours with this. This is a great show. This is one of our best shows.
Well, I'm answering the question that how the black community would feel. Yeah. And that's no different in the Trayvon Martin shooting. I mean, you know, or anything. You know, if something happens to an African American officer, if, you know, it's just how we perceive him. Oh, if it was white, man, that man tried to kill him. That man tried to do something. It's just people's attitude. Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. Yeah,
Al's basically Al's basically saying that he's admitting, and he's got the balls to sit up here and admit that he thinks a lot of the black community is going to take the black person's side, regardless, just like a lot of white people take the white person's side.
It's no different. Listen,
that's just one of the harsh realities of life, Donnie. This world.
There is a lot of white people out there that agree with this case that the Officer Sutton is wrong and something should be done. They're not showing up marching and protesting. I guarantee you, some of those white people that feel that he was wrong, if the NAACP, Al Sharpton, and Jesse Jackson got involved, they would change and flip their attitude just because they got involved.
Oh, of course.
That's the danger part about keeping certain groups and organizations and people out.
Let me ask you this. You brought that up, and I wanted to ask you on the phone last night, and I didn't. Here, sorry, Derek, I'll point at you.
No problem.
You're aware of Al Sharpton coming? Right up the street here. He's coming in late February.
Right.
And do you know any extra information about that? Is he coming strictly because it's Black History Month and the church invited him, or has he gotten on his desk something about this Officer Sutton as Junebug case?
A lot of people.
Do you know anything?
A lot of people.
Come on, Al, let us know. I want the breaking news.
Some people misunderstand the relationship of Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson being affiliated with the NAACP. He was invited here because of Black History Month. Right. But I will tell you, he will probably not pass up the opportunity
we
to
hope
address
so.
the issue.
We hope so.
If he decides to stay around the next day. Right. Unfortunately, it's Sunday. Usually they'll come in the day before and they'll fly out that same evening. Yeah. He will mention it probably at that church, but if he decides to stay over Monday, I will tell you this. The Justice Department is on this. The state NACP is also on this.
Wow.
And I've said to many folks, brace yourselves because it's brewing, and within the next week and a half,
gonna be a wing dang
before it gets better, it'll get worse.
Right. Well, that's good. That's a good one to leave on. Guys, again, sound like y'all had a great show. I just should have stayed home and watched it instead of been on it. We had a wordsmith, by the way. I randomly picked up a wordsmith while I was at home, and I put it on the Facebook page, and it was perfect. It was randomly picked before I got here, and the word was comrade. So look at us. We're all here, comrades. There you go.
Y'all should give the blog address to folks that may be listening or
yes. The blog address is www.blogtv.com/people/the morning roast. And don't forget to check out the Morning Roast Facebook page and also the Justice for Sammy Davis Jr. Facebook page. And also check out the YouTube Morning Roast YouTube page is under the name Ed Einbinder, and also check out my YouTube page as well as Irving Martinez's YouTube page as well. But definitely mine, Derek Barrett Films, because I had I did a thought to ponder about the Sammy Davis Jr. case and murder, and how, you know, what were the things about it, and also it also has links to of the tribute to Sammy Davis Jr. music video that was done by the Davis family, and also Cheryl Davis's family, Cheryl Davis, Sammy Davis Jr.'s sister, her video to it, and also have a link to change.org, where it has a portion of Pinehone Avenue. They want to change it, to rename a portion of that to Sammy Davis Jr. Parkway. So I want to thank all our chatters. Thank you, Sabuki, Donnie, Curry, Ellen, Megan, Ronald, Rosalind, Nicole, Official Gamer Girl, Vocal Bite, Eric Wildcat, Blue Nose 2, Gecko Lizard, Sutton 304, Winchester, Guest Poor Pie, and Sick Crow. And thank you, Block TV, for keeping us
Thank you, Al.
Thank you for our guests. Thank you for our guests, Al.
Tell them today, 12:30.
12:30. There will be a rally.
Rosa Parks Square across from City Hall,
which will be followed by the mayor's delayed state of the city, which was supposed to be scheduled for yesterday, but due to a tornado, due to a tornado storm that we had yesterday. Anyway, take care. I'll probably bring some more stories I didn't get a chance to talk about. I want to tell Al, ask Al about the upcoming businesses that are progressing, especially we had last year with the movie 42 that was filmed last year, which will be coming out in April. And also, matter of fact, January 31st, Jackie Robinson would have turned 94 today.
Yes.
So just want to put that in.
Breaking news: State NAACP is endorsing y'all's rally. I just got an email.
Is endorsing who?
Is endorsing y'all's rally today.
Great.
all right.
Well done. President Everett Bowles is endorsing y'all's rally.
You see, folks, you get it right here every time. You get the breaking news.
Yeah, so just want to let
Breaking
y'all know.
news, baby.
I believe it's also John Lydon's birthday today, isn't it?
Oh yeah, John Lydon is from the Sex Pistols also.
Al, are you going
Turned
to
57.
his thing?
Turned 57 today.
No.
And Kerry Washington, who turned 36,
But
she's
I just got an
she's
email
on the
from
ABC
the NAACP,
show Scandal, that popular show on
They encourage
ABC.
folks to come to y'all's meeting.
Which
Y'all's
she's
rally.
Hold on, Derek.
I'm sorry?
No,
Say again?
From the state NAACP office has endorsed y'all's rally.
Thank
and
you.
is encouraging NAACP members to attend y'all's rally.
Thank you.
Now, I won't be there because I've got other obligations, but that is surprising to me because the NAACP normally does not endorse protests unless they're leading the way. But according to this email from Chairman Means, who's part of the NAACP State Justice Department, has just said he encouraged folks to go.
Wow.
Awesome.
Appreciate that. Thank you
Wow.
very much. So get out there. It's a nice day. We'll be out there. We got to get ready.
We'll be out there.
Bye. See you tomorrow for Flippin' Friday.
Love you guys. Thank you, bloggers and chatters and everybody
Thanks
else.
again, Al, for
We're out.
coming on.
Thank you,
Yes,
Al.
thank
We
you.
love
Thank
you. One of the greatest public servants this city has ever had.
We'll see you tomorrow, same blog time, same blog channel.